Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 132. Should you do a joint venture with a friend or relative? This is going to be a fab episode, and Happy New Year to you. We are unpacking, first of all, what joint ventures are, equity partners, loan partners. We're going to look at why you might want to use a family member or friend. We look at the benefits of doing that. We look at the negatives. There are some negatives to doing it. And we look at reasons you might want to reflect on or understand a little bit more before you jump into your first joint venture. We've got an opportunity to let you know about something we have coming up around joint ventures, which we let you know during the podcast. So jump on into episode 132. We know you are going to love it, and Happy New Year. Hello, and welcome to episode 132. Did I say 22? It should be 32. 132, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, yay.
Yes.
It's well underway.
Yes, we're on episode 2 now.
Yep.
Heads up, we do record prior this time. Usually we're week by week, but this was recorded prior because Bob and I, technically, we should be on holiday right now, Hope.
Yes.
Where are we off to? Remember, we're talking about the future. We're talking about in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, look, it's pretty good around home at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good at the ocean. Yeah, okay. So we're not going. I thought we were doing a
few day trips.
Yeah, a few day trips.
Yeah.
Overnighter somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so before we get into should you do a joint venture with a friend or relative, and should you? It's a great question. Bob, what's your tip for 2024 coming out around January, early January?
Well, I'm just thinking what I might be like around the time that the potty comes out. Probably eating too much. You know, ham, chicken, prawns, salad, little Christmas pudding maybe. I think
you've already eaten that, have you? I did buy one.
No, I just wanted to make sure, before the event that everything's right. So, I've had to sample a few of these things.
I'm just going to move your mic while we're talking, Bob. I think it's a little bit out of there. You go.
So what I recommend is it's some intermittent fasting, like just to get back into it. Don't go on some crazy crash diet.
Intermittent fasting is your tip.
Well, you know all about that. You're a nutritionist.
Yeah, I am. But so the old intermittent fasting after Christmas, just to get things back on track. Great tip.
Yeah, get the metabolism used to not getting pounded all the time. Where it's totally processing volumes of food and drinks.
Yes, I hear you.
That's my tip.
Yes. Okay. Fabulous tip.
And it's one I'm going to take up.
Are you? Oh, you'll be applying it by January 10?
I'll be before that, I think.
Really?
Yeah, probably 3rd or 4th. I think I'll have to start. It does take a while.
Yeah, it does take a while. Okay, well, that's a really good tip. And we do hope everyone's had a fabulous New Year and at Christmas and are excited for 2024 because, crikey, we are. Yep. I just love the new year. If you listen to my other podcast, I talk about it a lot. Mostly because it's a great opportunity for us to reflect. I do reflecting in December, reflect on the year that was and start choosing what I want this year to do, be, or look like. And I want people doing this podcast, listening to this podcast to do the same thing. I want you to think about, what is it that you do want? And it's still a little bit early for us to be back on. We will do the goal setting session. So if you would like to register for that, there'll be a link below and just register your interest for that. And it's where we take an hour out of your life and we actually spend that time deciding on your future. And when you think about it, as I always say, people spend more time planning a wedding or Christmas lunch than they do their actual life.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
It's just an opportunity to put you first, and I just lead you through it. It'll be different to previous years. I've got some new strategies and tactics underway to make it.
I can't wait to do it myself.
To make it more beneficial for you. Okay, so if you're interested in that, there will be a link below. But we are talking joint ventures. Should you do a joint venture with a friend or relative? And Bob, I'm going to throw this straight to you.
Ooh.
Let's first of all unpack joint ventures.
Yeah, okay, because it's a term that's thrown around pretty loosely. But just to keep it simple, there's what we're talking about a joint venture. Typically, and it doesn't have to be this way, but more often than not, it's one person who's doing the work, doing the development, managing the development, and the other person puts in the required amount of money, which we call equity. And of course, the financier puts in most of it. They put in 70 or 80% of all the money you need, but it's that 20 or 30% that you need to put in up front. And that normally would come from the investor or the joint venture partner. Now, that can come in two ways. And I'm just going to refer to them as a joint venture partner for the time being. They can be in the project with you. In other words, they're on the title of the land, you're jointly borrowing the money, and typically the reward at the other end would be where you split the profits in a pre-agreed proportion. That's what we often call joint venture with an equity partner. The other way an investor can, if you like, supply that money for the developer is not be part of the project, not be part of the loan, but be outside of the project, but just lend them the money, like a financier in their own respect. So they would lend that money at an interest rate return, not a profit share, typically. And so they're not part of the project. But either way, the commonality is that whether it's what we call a loan partner or an equity partner, they're supplying capital to the project for the developer to do the project.
And Bob, just when we say loan partner, they're often referred to as money partners as well.
Yeah,
People do reflect.
Yeah, but
and it gets confusing because joint venture partners, where you're actually in the deal and on the title, can also be money partners. So it does get confusing for people.
Well, people are confused because
people are just generally confused.
They use money partner for everything, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're quite specific about whether they're an equity partner, which means they're in the deal.
Yeah.
Equity, profit share, and equity generally in the financial markets gives you profit share. Loan, typical loan interest rate, and we use those words specifically to differentiate.
And it makes it very clear.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, well, I'm clear on that.
Mind you, there's 1,000 ways of cutting each of those deals, as we know.
Yes, you actually alluded to something there that we haven't talked about that into this podcast, where you said on an agreed profit share. And that is something in itself, because it's not always 50-50, and there are ways of working that out. But anyway, that's not what this podcast is about.
No.
But there are, when you said those words, I thought, we didn't actually put that in the notes.
That could take 1 or 2 days to really rip apart joint ventures, capital raising and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, there we go. What a great idea. Maybe we should.
I think I'll ponder it further.
Okay, well, I think it's pondered. Okay. I think it's been pondered, and we'll leak that out a little bit in the podcast today. So keep listening for some exciting news about joint ventures. Anyway, Bob, why would people want to have a joint venture partner versus doing something on their own?
Well, one reason,
or a loan, a loan partner, equity partner.
Either way, let's just call them
joint ventures.
Let's call them a joint venture partner and not differentiate. So a developer would want to do a joint venture. One reason is they don't have enough money of their own.
Mm-hmm.
And so they need to get some, and that would be why they would want to do a joint venture.
I've got a second
with the
reason.
Other party. What?
Sometimes people just want to help somebody out, and they do have money, and they've got somebody that they know. I mean, it's a win-win. Remember, it's always an opportunity.
Yeah.
So there is.
So help somebody out would probably be somebody they know.
Yes, for sure.
And probably like.
Yes, definitely.
And so, that's a reason for a joint venture to help. If you've got a friend who would, even you could be on the other side of the equation. You have a friend who wants to do a project, and you could help out if you've got the money. It's still a joint venture.
If you remember, this isn't in the notes actually. Remember, I had a friend not long ago, within the last 8 months.
You had a friend not long ago. It sounds like you've only had
one
friend.
I've only got one
friend
in my entire life. Yeah,
and
it's probably within the last 12 months. Yeah. And she needed a loan partner for a short amount of time, and because she was a friend, I was like, we were just chatting about the opportunity that she had in front of her. We were just on the phone, and she said, I need X, and I just went, I'll loan it to you. And she's like, would you? And I said, yeah, of course. And that was just
spontaneous.
It was very short term, a month probably. But it was just a friend.
Just got her over a hurdle.
Yeah, I got her over a hurdle, because sometimes people can do things. I'm kind of going off track, but it's not that people can't, but you know, when you've got to juggle money and rob Peter to pay Paul and move this to there and
Yeah.
siphon equity out of this, it just made her life so much easier. She goes, "Oh God, that would just be so good if you could do that." And yeah, I did. And so that's a sort of an example of where when you got a good friend like me who just said, "Yeah, of course, I'll do that." Hello, Bob. For those who can't see, Bob just put his hand out to me. Okay, so
Yeah, that's another reason, yeah.
yeah.
It's why you would want to do a joint venture.
Yes. So, what are the benefits, Bob, of actually doing a joint venture with a friend or family member?
Because there's obviously two conflicting opinions when you talk to people about doing joint ventures with friends. But why would you? Well, I mean, what I'm thinking is if I'm going to do a joint venture and the joint venture is going to make money, would I not prefer for that money to go to a friend or a relative as opposed to a stranger? Nothing wrong with strangers, of course, but I mean that could be one reason.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're going to do a I don't know, go and do a duplex and make $400,000 or $500,000, and you're prepared to go 50-50 in the profit. I mean, that's 250,000 that could go to a friend or relative, as opposed to somebody that you don't know or don't know well or whatever. That could be a reason.
Another reason that you would choose a friend or relative is that they already know, like, and trust you.
Oh, yeah, big one.
So, if somebody already knows you, likes you, and trusts you,
Well, they're the three ticks that you really want to get.
yeah.
And with a stranger, that can take a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, communicating, a bit of time. People rarely know, like, and trust somebody on their very first meeting, unless they come like really well referred, perhaps from another friend or relative whom they trust. You know,
I'm pretty quick as a person to like people. I'm way more, what's that word that I'm after? Just, oh yeah, they're great. I tend to like people straight away because there's a model that it's a neuroscience model that tells us that when we meet people, we always see people as a foe before a friend and they have to jump a hurdle. But me personally, I like people quite fast. So yeah, I just like people mostly. There's not often
that can
somebody.
be good or bad.
Yeah, of course, I'm not saying either.
And the other
But
way can be good or bad.
yeah, exactly. No, it's not right or wrong, but I do know that about me. Whereas you're probably more likely to be a bit more cautious around somebody. Like, oh, they're okay until you really trust that you like them.
Yeah. Yes,
I'm too trusting.
that's my personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is good that I'm a bit like that and you're a bit like that, because it's something, you can lift me sometimes.
And you can hold me back some, stop me.
Keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah,
From
exactly.
floating away.
And so that know, like, and trust thing.
No, like and trust. That's
yeah,
big.
for friend and relative, it makes it a lot easier to find because it's easier to approach somebody as well. Because when you're looking for a joint venture partner, that first initial conversation can be quite challenging. Well, not challenging, a little bit nerve-wracking, but if you already know them, it's a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah, and so if it is a friend or relative, they might see what you're doing and actually even approach you. And they might see, say you do a project and you do well out of it, and their friend or a relative, they know that, and they think, oh, would you consider me, because they already know, like, and trust. You know, like, and trust.
Yeah,
they've seen a benefit, and like, rather than you even ask, sometimes they could ask.
They also understand, how you and I just briefly discussed our communication style, really minor piece of it.
Yep.
But they understand your communication style. So if they already know you, there's an understanding of how you are. If you're the person who likes to talk a lot, they know you're going to talk a lot. If you're the person who likes to just send an email, like, they'll just have an understanding of you.
Yeah.
And maybe if you've been a bit erratic over the past, it might be a little bit, or if they've seen, you could have success
Because
in other
sometimes you make
area.
allowances for friends,
For
because
sure.
no one's perfect.
Yeah, apart from me and you.
Wow. To each other, perhaps, not to others.
No, gosh, no. Yeah, so I think that there's that natural understanding.
Yeah.
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 And so what about, Bob? We could probably have a look at the negative reasons of why you
wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, why you wouldn't want to do a joint venture with somebody who is a relative or a friend.
And we come across this sometimes when we're talking to even people in our mentoring program who want to do a joint venture, and we immediately get into the conversation. Well, who do you know? Who's in your circle? Before we go outside of the circle.
Actually, that just brings me to the point when people come to the workshops, our workshop, they've got the 3 days with people, and there are an enormous amount of joint ventures that happen from there.
Yeah.
Or the seeds get planted, and even if they don't happen immediately, they happen soon after.
Mm.
So when you spend a consolidated amount of time with people, it really is
Yeah.
beneficial. So sorry,
And remember, it's something like a workshop. These aren't people coming in cold. These are
no,
people who
passionate.
are passionate about property development. I mean, they would have at least bought the course. Some of them are doing the mentoring program. They understand property development, or even if they're like really green and new, they're getting there. And so that's a big step immediately, that people know property development, really passionate, really want to do well, to just be there. And then after that, it's not a big step to get to know, because, as you know, we're pretty social at our workshops, and there's sort of like,
Pretty social. I think I'd tick the extra social box.
well, there's 6 times a day that we get together. It's before the event, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, straight after the event, and in the evening we often go out and have a meal or catch up. So there's lots of opportunity of like-minded people to get together, and so that's a good head start.
And they understand property development, so they understand feasibility, so they understand due diligence, and they're going into it a bit more informed as well. So they understand what a good deal is. Someone comes to you, and we probably didn't put that in. If you've got a friend or family member that understands property development, it's probably even easier because they know a good thing. A good thing when you've got it.
Yeah. And if it's not, as I said before, if it's not your first project, they've probably seen you being successful.
Yes.
Either with other investors or by yourself. So that's good. But
negatives.
Back to that negative thing. Some people have the attitude, like we just discussed, if I'm going to do a project and make money, I'd rather a friend or relative to make that money.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin is, and it's a negative thing, it's a bit like the glass half empty or whatever, but people say, oh, look, if something goes wrong, if the project goes wrong, if it doesn't make it, as much money as I thought, or this happens, or there's problems, I'd rather be dealing with somebody I don't know very well, rather than a close friend or relative that I have a strong relationship with. It's somebody I see socially fairly regularly, or even if it's a relative you see once a year at Christmas. Their attitude is, what if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
Well, my attitude is, if you're really sort of that negative, maybe you shouldn't be doing property development. I mean, certainly we have to understand that, things can go a bit sideways sometimes, and we talk about, how do you fix that? How do you mitigate against that? That's normal. But anyway, it is an attitude with some people that they just don't want to do it with somebody close to home.
And also, and I know of a situation where this has happened, where people got together to do a joint venture, and they were both working on the deal, but one of them became a bit lazy.
Oh, yeah.
And expected the other person to do more, and they fell out actually as friends, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They were friends for quite a long time.
Yeah. I think one's a property coach now. I think somewhere. I think I've seen that somewhere
enough
online.
Of them around.
Yeah. Apparently.
But yeah, that was a situation where it wasn't where one person manages the project, the other person just puts in the money. They came together as friends, but it was a bit lopsided, because the agreement was to split the profit 50-50, but one of them, like, jobs were allocated, but slowly, because one party wasn't really holding, pulling the weight, the other person had to slowly take over some of their role, to the point that one party was doing probably 90% and the other party was doing 10. And also the party that was doing 90 was the person that was putting in the money, because the other person really didn't have it. So yeah, that can become.
So that was a fallout.
It can't. Well, eventually it was, because it's very, very lopsided. And I mean, there's ways of discussing that and getting around that. But when one person is just, of that mentality, and then they sort of, have that 9 to 5 mentality, and just eventually those things won't last.
Also, another negative can be if you, especially probably more on the loan partner side of things.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. You might see it from another angle that you could help me unpack with. But if there isn't that connection already, that know, like, and trust connection, you could have a problem with flexibility. As in flexibility when the loan time's up and you can't pay it
You
right
need
now.
another 3
Yeah,
months
you need 3
because the
months.
build's gone slow
And
or
that can
something's happened.
happen. Like, that happens, and we have to go into things with eyes wide open. And if you aren't related or a friend, you could be a bit hard nosed about it.
And some people can be.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, that lack of flexibility, you should. I'll step outside and say, if you're going to do a joint venture with somebody, don't just make the most important thing. I've got to get the money. I've got to get the money.
No.
Also, you do have to get the money.
Yeah.
But think about the person. Like, you're going to be in a project for, say, 2 years with them. Try and understand them a bit better. Like you're saying, how would they react if, in the case of, say, a loan partner, it's a 15-month loan, and at 15 months you still got 2.5 months of building to go, another month of getting titles and settling on settling. It could be another 4 months. How are they going to? What's going to be their attitude? The good thing is about a loan partner, they get another 4 months of interest. But some people would just like
No,
slam the brakes on,
yeah.
just be absolutely pedantic about it.
And I hear this both ways. I mean, I've had it happen to me, and I'm fine with it. As long as you're you're right, Bob. You understand the person.
Yeah, and even in an equity situation,
Yep.
and I had to talk to somebody a little while ago to help them out with that. It's an equity situation where the investors put the capital in, they're in there, they're in the deal, they're on the loan, they're on the title, but they're quite the person with the money is fairly green to property development, and they're also prone to a bit of a panic. Well, from a personality point of view, they can quickly sort of get scared and tip into a panic. So with property development, I mean, we can plan every little step, but sometimes you're a bit to the left, you're a bit to the right.
Yep.
Sometimes you just speed up, sometimes you slow down, sometimes something jumps up that you've got to deal with.
It's not brain surgery.
Something from council, or whatever it is, could be anything.
That can't. What I mean is, it can't be that specific.
No,
things will happen.
You got to ride it out.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and you deal with it, and so and I've seen it. Some people, like, at the smallest deviation, they all start to panic, and that puts pressure on that relationship.
Yeah.
When it gets really tough, you got to, where you end up. You go back to the joint venture agreement. You go back to what's in writing sometimes, which is a legalistic attitude. But
great word, Bob. Legalistic. Is that even a word?
It is now, if it's not previously.
If it wasn't, it
well,
now
apparently
is.
You can just make up words down, throw them in a dictionary that don't even mean what they mean. So,
okay. I like it.
Yeah, legalistic sounds good. But that can happen. So that gets back to not just grabbing somebody because they have the money, but trying to understand, what are they going to be like? I mean, if things go a bit slow, what will they be like? If we have some issues with council, are they going to fly into a panic, or are they just going to, let's solve it, let's talk to the planner, let's look at this and that, So
maybe with some level of knowledge.
You can do that better with a friend or a relative, is what I'm getting to, than somebody you just met,
Yep.
a month ago.
Yes. What about, Bob, a negative side? And we're just going to throw this one out there because we did discuss it and had to have a decision about whether we spoke about it or not, and we decided to go down the road that we will. What about when the negative side of social media promoting, or people doing paid advertising, or just people on social media offering opportunities to people that people go into? How do I even say that? You're with me. Help me say it. That people go into and they shouldn't.
Yeah, look, social media has changed the world.
Totally.
And
fabulous.
There's it's like everything. There's a good side and a not so good side.
Yeah.
The good side is it's opened up the world, socially, to see what, friends and relatives are doing, and
we're a global community now.
80 years ago, if you're on a holiday, you'd send somebody a postcard. Tell them what your holiday's like. Now they can jump on your Facebook twice a day and have a look at what's going on and what trips you're doing, and what a great restaurant it's. So there's a lot of good things about social media. The other side of it is that it creates a 5-minute expert.
Yeah.
It's all around perception. You can make anything look anything you want it to be
Yeah.
through social media, through marketing, through tricky marketing. And that's the
And now
negative
with
side of it,
AI even, it's probably even worse.
even more
And
so. And so
yeah.
people with far less experience than they should have can look experienced.
Mm.
Deals that mightn't be good deals can be thrown up by these people. And then on the other side, you also have to blame investors sometimes, that they get mesmerised by an interest rate
Or
return
by
or something and never
not
really
just that,
look behind the curtain.
they get mesmerized by social media.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that person posts a lot, they must know what they're doing. Or
Oh, yeah.
but we actually you emailed somebody very professionally, didn't send a message, didn't send a text, and just said to somebody who has a very big platform on social media,
Mm.
a property page, and said, hey, this person here is actually going under, and they're posting on your page, and you probably might want to stop it happening.
Yeah.
And she didn't.
I never said at the time they were going under,
What were your
although
words?
they since have.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous situation. There's this person taking a huge profile. They're very I know the person.
Yeah,
They're
we
very
both do. Yeah.
inexperienced. They're very gung ho. They're
Risky.
highly risky, because I know of some projects, and I said you should, for the benefit of your database, tame the whole thing down a bit.
Mm.
I didn't say they should ban the person, but it needs to be tamed down.
Mm.
Of course, the other side of the coin is people get mesmerised by that sort of stuff.
But she didn't do anything.
She did nothing.
And since then, this person has gone under and taken
at least 100 people have been dragged down.
Yeah. And it's just your average person. It's not like it's some big label name. And it's just, that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, so you've got to be careful
of how shiny somebody makes themselves look. And
that's the thing. It's
can't
social
believe
media.
You can't believe what people say.
You can't believe Instagram. Somebody puts up a photo of themselves that looks lovely, but that is a result of an enormous amount of makeup and choosing one out of 200 photos. Like that's fine, that's great. But
do you know a non-property development thing? I don't know if any of you listen to I listen to a scientist podcast because it's all on peer-reviewed studies and it interests me. Human behavior interests me and that sort of thing interests me. And he's pretty poo-hoo about, he picks Instagram as his favorite not to like. But he was talking about how it's really trendy now for young people to put those sleep things in babies' bedrooms that makes the white noise. And he got a sleep specialist, a doctor who has worked in that field his entire life, who said he would never put that in his children's room because it actually does brain damage long term and it will affect learning. And he said, I would never have them. But what I'm getting at with that is that social media makes it out like, oh, this is the thing you should do because it's showing up the latest thing, everyone's using it, and they're actually dangerous.
And there's no science base behind there.
Someone just got a great marketing plan.
Yeah, exactly. And
throw the marketing behind it.
Like we see that in the property world.
Yeah. So that's the same thing. It's very easy to make something look great if you put the right colours behind it and say the right things, but it's not necessarily good. And really this is just, this negative conversation we're having is just to make people go into stuff eyes wide open.
Yep.
Don't be naive.
No, exactly. And that's why we wrote the ebook on armchair developer strategies, written from an investor's point of view of what all the things you should be looking out for before you invest in a property development.
We've gone one step further, Bob. We now have a short video on
That's right.
which will be available soon. It may be even in the show notes here. Have a check, and I should know that, but because the person who does the show notes isn't quite here yet. Never mind. It's early in the morning where we are.
Early morning podcast.
Yeah, and you're right, Bob. We just need to be aware. And we're not trying to be scaremongers, but we do want people to just be careful. It's money, and we work blooming hard for our money. Well, I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Bob. So, have you done a joint venture with a friend or family?
Both.
Same.
Not lots, but my second project I ever did was with a friend. It was my sister's boyfriend at the time, Keith. He was an earth mover.
Did they get married or not?
No.
Okay,
no.
so just a friend, not a brother-in-law.
Well,
sort of a brother-in-law.
They were boyfriend, girlfriend. This is my older sister at the time.
At the time, so she's not your older sister now. She's always your
She's
older
turned into
sister?
my younger sister.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, no. And yeah, but anyway, that sort of doesn't matter. I was quite good friends with Keith because he's my sister's boyfriend. We got to know each other pretty well. He was older than me. He's a guy who had his own earth moving business. And so the second project I ever did was with Keith, and Keith was the equity partner on that project. And so, yeah, I did that. It was only a small project at the time, my second one. The reason he came into it is I'd previously done a project just before that, and I came out of it quite well. That was what we call a vendor finance deal, which is another creative strategy where I did a 4-lot subdivision without putting any money in. Keith saw that and he said, "Wow, that's pretty good. The money you made out of that." He said, "I've got some money put aside. Can we do a project together?" And we did. But in terms of relatives, I suppose you don't get much. I mean, other than your partner, because you often do projects together anyway. But beyond that, like it's your kids. And so, I'm thinking of a 4 townhouse project I did with my son Luke, and that was good. That was, well, with that one, I was actually the equity partner, and he did the work, which is a bit different. He had his own money. Actually, I should have made him put it in. He could have been my equity partner, really, but we just did it that way. We said, let's do a project together, make some money. Be good for you to make some money, and so, well, he was making money anyway. And that's what we did. I put the money in, and we both went on the title. We both went on the loan. We did 4 townhouses. We sold them, and we went 50-50 in the profits at the other end. And that was good.
Oh, you said something then. Oh, just going back to your sister's boyfriend, he approached you, and that's part of that know, like, and trust, because you're having conversations around the family. Oh, this has happened, and I'm excited, and so that's
it's a combination of already know, like, and trusted me.
Yeah. But he came to you.
And a little touch of greed. Oh, Bob's just made all that money out of that project.
Or maybe that's opportunity. Maybe
opportunity.
Saw opportunity. He's an
Keith,
opportunist.
sorry, Keith, if you're listening, it wasn't greed.
It was opportunity.
He jumped on an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
He said, "Well, let's do that."
And then I've done the same with. I just said before about a friend, and I've actually been an investor where I've become a friend, because you get to know them well enough. And I've sort of jumped in a few, and then I've had my son done joint ventures with him, but they were around renovations. And believe it or not, the second time he was the equity partner because he was the loan partner.
Oh yeah.
Because I got him to use the profit from the first one that we did together to do the second one. And so it rolled out. It rolled out like that. But that was kind of pretty cool.
So with your kids, so it's good. You can these days. A lot of parents worry about their kids not being able to get into the property market when they're older.
Yeah.
And in terms of affordability, the way prices of property goes up, then the question is, well, how long does it take your kids to save up a deposit? And then we've got the first home owner scheme, those sorts of things, which helps, of course. But property's not cheap. And you, as a developer, if you learn how to be a developer, you can joint venture your children into a project where they could get a project out at absolute raw cost and use that profit as their deposit, an instant $100,000 deposit. Which is really the profit used as a deposit when you keep the townhouse or whatever it is at the end. So parents can easily set up their children for life by joint venturing with them, whereby they hold some product. You have to be structured properly to do it, but that's okay. You can get advice on that. But that can change everything.
I think the tip here is you need to go and knock on mum and dad's door. There's a tip for you.
Could be. Or mum and dad need to knock on their door. So, but it is something, because some parents, when they want to help kids out like that, and banks don't really like it anymore, but they used to go guarantors on their child's loan for a start, and that just ruins them from borrowing money and doing stuff themselves. Not really a thing banks like doing anymore. But the other thing is they take $100,000 out of their super to give it to the child to put down as a deposit to buy, which is a lovely thing for a parent to do. But there goes $100,000 of your super that you can't do anything with. That might affect your lifestyle, particularly if you've got 3 kids and you pulled out 300. Whereas in a development, if you develop, say, $600,000 townhouse that only cost you $500, that $100,000 profit from that one townhouse that could be in that child's name is their deposit. They don't have to, and you can even claim the first home owner scheme on that. There's ways around that. So it's all about all about getting the thing set structurally right at first, because there's a few tax things to get around, but can be got around. And so simply joint venture with kids, set them up for life.
So there we go. We're both saying, should you do a joint venture with a friend or relative? Both of us agree, why not?
And we have.
And we have. So if it's something you're thinking about, well, and you want some education, you know where to go, propertymastermind.com. But now we can tell you about our exciting workshop we got coming up this year. We're doing a joint venture workshop.
Yes.
We haven't done one before.
We haven't. We've made it part of our course. We obviously go into it even more detail with people in our mentoring program to help them get set up in joint ventures. We do that. But haven't run strictly a course
workshop,
a proper workshop on that subject, and it's one that everybody wants to know.
So we will be doing this, and we're thinking Sydney.
We're thinking Sydney, we're thinking May.
Thinking May in Sydney. So if you would like to register your interest for that, there'll be a link below for you to register. And we're thinking it will probably sell out because it will be worth coming to. We're thinking people that have money would want to come, and people that want to learn more about it and meet investors would like to come.
And I'll have my gun team there, which is a level and 10 levels above most other people's gun team. And I'll be there. I've done well over $300 million worth of projects myself in JVs, cap raisings and all that sort of stuff. So,
and I'm kind of the queen on how to talk to the people.
And you are. You're the expert on that. So you'll be talking about the whole psychology side of it.
Yeah.
Building relationships, all that. I'll go in and talk about what I know, which could take a while, with lots of examples. And we'll have some experts, some of our own experts there as well, structural, legal, financial.
And not just that. I think it's going to be, I know it'll be a great opportunity for people. So if you are keen for that, do register your interest and you'll be amongst the first that get the opportunity to
we'll put out more detailed pricing and all that. It's just a matter of, are you interested in attending it?
In Sydney.
In Sydney, probably around May. If that subject really resonates with you, and you can see how advantageous it can be.
And it won't be the end. It won't be the end of May, because I was telling some mentoring students yesterday, and they said, "Oh, don't make it the end of May." I was like, "Okay, it won't be the end of May, so it'll be closer to earlier."
But just
than that.
if you would be interested in attending that, subject to further information, obviously.
Yes, for sure. So, Bob, let's wind up. There's a few links below in this one, haven't I? I've mentioned that a few times. I have to remember what they are, so I tell the people that need to
put them there. Listen to our own podcast again.
Sometimes I do listen.
At double speed.
Yes. Hey, Kyle, he listens at double speed.
He does.
I think if it went faster, he'd even listen faster.
He's a speed listener.
He is a
You talk about speed readers. He's a speed listener.
Speed.
I've seen you run 3-speed.
No, there is no
like
3-speed. No, I do listen to some things at 2-speed, especially if I'm doing a check on something and I've already heard it before, Bob. It just sends me crazy when I've got to listen to you or myself talk.
If you've got to listen to me,
oh my gosh,
that'll be something new.
Oh my God! Stop it! All right. On that note, that cheeky note, that is the end of episode 132, and we'll catch you real soon. Bye.
Bye.